from New Jersey and from Ranana and from many other places, and we're still gaining people. So welcome everybody. Good evening, good erev, good afternoon, good morning on the West Coast if anybody's there. Really happy to see everybody. Really anxious to hear Dan. And guys, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A feature if you can. Dan will take questions at the end, and well, I think we're off to go. So Dan, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Jay. Let me show my presentation. Can you see it in full frame or?
I think so. My viewing thing is
Yes,
bigger.
yes, it's in full frame.
Okay. So thank you everybody for joining us. I join Jay for our heart is with the people of Los Angeles. It's kind of feeling that we are all with different situation, but we are all in crisis now. And so I would like to talk today about the very challenging and I would say full of challenge year of 24. I assume that the new year that we just started is going to be even, I don't know if even worse, but even more challenging. But it's going to be full of work to um, deal with all the things that coming after the war or during the war, or with all the impact of the war that we are feeling all over in Israel now. Um, so um, when we speak about the last 15 months, I think since October 7, 2023, we are, SPNI is working on the regular issues of protecting the nature of Israel, but at the same time, from the very first beginning, we see ourselves working for the community of Israel, for the community of the Western Negev, and later, not much later, also for the community of the northern border, the Lebanese border. And with the time pass through, the North become more and more in our agenda, and it will be in our agenda. The rehabilitation of the northern part of Israel will be part of our work for probably many years to come, because there's a lot of impact there. Despite the challenge time, the last 15 months, we are still working on our regular agenda to protect the nature of Israel, and to work with the people of Israel, and especially with the education system of Israel, to educate and to show the importance of the nature of Israel. Even during this very challenging time, we still have an amazing achievement. One example is our marine conservation program. We managed just few months ago um, uh, to get 3 new nature reserve in the Sea of Israel. Sorry, two nature reserve and one national park. The first in sea, in marine, and national park in Israel near Caesarea. A very a change of concept. It is not always easy to create nature reserve because of many obstacles we have on the way. So the national park is another option to protect the marine. Um, it was 2012 when the Nature and Park Reserve Authority for the first time published the strategy for the Mediterranean, the conservation of the Mediterranean of Israel, when we have almost zero protected area in our Mediterranean, and today we have 6% of our of them the water of Israel, sorry, the Mediterranean of Israel protected, plus 2% in the economical water of Israel, which is a significant change. And we are moving forward to have probably by the end of 2025, 9% protected in the territorial water of Israel, and probably about 4 to 5% in the economical water, which is amazing achievement for Israel. I just came for a steering committee of the group that working of the marine conservation in Israel, and I find out that Israel is one of the first country in the world to achieve such number. There are two or three countries in the world that already achieved the 30% a goal. It's the UK and maybe one or two other places. But most of the countries around the world are around less than 5% protected, which means Israel is very advanced in this field. As you all know, and I think it was showing here in one of the webinar just a few weeks ago, we are now deep into the Gulf of protecting the Gulf of Eilat. As many of you knows, one way of protecting the Gulf of Eilat is by lobbying against the potential increasing of oil transferring through the Gulf of Eilat. So this is one issue. As many of you probably know, we went back few steps. I think it was 2 months ago when the government of Israel decided to withdraw from the policy of the last government of Israel, that the policy was to not to increase the risk on the Gulf, and this government decided that this policy is not relevant anymore. But we still have a lot of tools to protect the Gulf of Eilat from this increasing of oil going through the Gulf. We're still working with the Ministry of Environment and with many other partners. Just a few minutes ago, there was a big conference in Eilat with about 20 leaders of municipalities and cities of Israel relevant to the situation. So there's a lot of effort there. But the other effort is to create a protected area, not only in the Mediterranean, also in the Gulf of Eilat. One of the most important marine area for the world. And we are in a situation that there's hardly any protecting area in the sea. The only protected area is close to the coast. So there's a need for a big effort there, and we are there now. We created a task force for Eilat, and we work hard to get the same thing that we already achieved in the Mediterranean, along the Mediterranean. Of course, that things that SPNI is doing for over protecting the habitat, the open landscape of Israel. We are working hard, and we are getting to a situation that we are creating a better protecting of the ecological corridor of Israel. We managed this year to remove from the planning system of Israel 3 roads that was planning to pave in an important habitats of Israel. The last one is just from exactly one week ago, when the regional court of the center part of Israel decided to close a road that was built in a very important area near the city of Modi'in. And in the future, this road will be destroyed and will be back into nature. This is an important achievement for a very, very important ecological corridor and a very special habitat, Bata area near the city of Modi'in. We keep going with our amazing project of Startup Nature to create a new wetland, rewild, probably 20% of the past wetlands of Israel. Many of you know this site near Kfar Upin, near the Jordan River. This was the first one that we already managed to rewild in 2021. So Kfar Upin in the left, Ma'agan Michael. Just 2 months ago, we launched the new site in Ma'agan Michael after 2 years of working on the ground to take a fish farm and create beautiful wetland full of life on the bank of the crocodile stream. An amazing new site. And the big thing, the Kabara. The Kabara is used to be the second biggest wetland, or the second biggest marsh in Israel, that was a swamp. So in Israel, that was drained in 1923. And as many of you probably know, exactly 2 years ago, we decided, together with the drainage authority of the Carmel, with the help of the Nature and Park Reserve Authority, with the help of some donors and some other partners, to start planning the restoration of the Kabara. I just last week the steering committee of the Kabara met in Ramat Nadiv, just a few kilometers from the Kabara, and we saw the amazing achievement that the planners already have, and hopefully in 1 year from now we will start the restoration work on the ground, probably to restore about 700 or 800 acre of wetland in the Carmel area near Ma'agan Michael. We are in the process of many other projects, restoration project for wetland. So I believe that in 3 years from now, we will have at least another 4 or 5 different sites in the northern and central part of Israel. One of the biggest challenge for us in the last few years, and 2024 was not different, despite the war and despite the big time, or the big challenge here for the government of Israel, for the people of Israel. The government still running forward with many different projects of energy. Many of them are, or most of them, of course, are renewable energy, but the problem of this renewable energy is that many of them are in open lands in the desert, or up in the Golan, or up in the north, which require new energy wires that bring this energy to the center of Israel, where this energy is needed. SPNI, of course, is pro renewable energy, but our work and our effort is to make sure that most of this energy will be produced on existing infrastructures, and especially in the center part of Israel, that it's not require such long wires, that such long electric wires that that of course impact the nature. So we are in a big effort to work with all the partners in Israel to make sure that the impact will be smaller, and I think we are in a good way though. The other big challenge that we are all facing here in Israel is people, and especially kids and teens, students from the Western Negev, as well as from the northern part of Israel. Kids that didn't see home, didn't see proper school, doesn't have regular life for 15 months. I know that for many of us, it's sound like the war is behind us and people can go back home safely, but this is not the situation. People doesn't go home. People cannot go home. Their houses are not fitted to live in. Most of the communities are not going back either to the south or to the north. It means that there are still kids and teens that needs our help. As you probably know, what we can do as SPNI, what we can do as people that know about nature and about where to take people to nature. As you all know, we started right after the beginning of the war, right in at the beginning of 2024. we start taking these teens and kids to hiking in the desert. We started with a regular trek just for 2 or 3 days. And now we are after we learn a lot about the needs of these kids, and we learn a lot about what these kids and the community needs, we created this amazing program of a resilience journeys, resilience trek into the desert and and also in the Carmel area. We are just during these days, hundreds of kids and teens with us in the desert. Just 2 weeks ago, a group from Majd el-Shams. Majd el-Shams is a Druze a village. It's not really a village, is bigger than a village, up on the Hermon that the kids was killed and injured by rockets that fell into the middle of the village in a soccer yard in the middle of the village. And brothers and sisters and close friends and family members of these kids that are all in deep trauma because of this event join us to an amazing trip in the Judea desert. And the feedback that we got from these kids was just amazing, how much it's helped them to go through this challenging time. As you all remember, we started these things 15 months ago with taking kids from their hotels and hosting evacuate people in our field study center, and now this work with the communities. But at the same time, and this is something we do more and more during this time, taking people from all over Israel to the desert and to the nature of Israel, because it is not only the evacuate kids, and it's not only the evacuate communities, is people from all over Israel that needs us to take them to the nature, let them breathe some air in the beautiful nature of Israel. And more than 100,000 people join us to hiking and nature trip along Israel. It's the least we can do for the people of Israel. The next step is to start dealing with the impact on the ground for the war. We started in the Western Negev. Right after the beginning of the war, sometime early 24, we created a task force for the rehabilitation of the Western Negev with the help of a great supporter of SPNI. And now we are in the middle of process working with the community and with the agencies of Israel that are working to restore the Western Negev. And now we are in the beginning process of doing the same thing up in the north. You can see some of the damage to the north, up in the Hermon, up in the Galil, in the Golan. I know that many of you think about fire, but it's not only fire. It's the impact of tractors and tanks and bulldozers an army go through the woodland, go through the wetland, through the streams, and created a lot of damage. Of course, this was a must of the war, but now it's the time to start to recover from that, and SPNI will be a major player to make sure that the huge budget of the government and philanthropy and supporters that goes up to the north will part of it will go to will be designated to the damage of the nature.
Dan, excuse me 1 second. If you go back to 1 second to that slide, I just want people to understand what those pictures are. In the bottom right photo, that whole encampment is an army base that was popped up in the last year. In other words, that valley was just a green valley in the winter, lush like it is, and now it is, as you see, it was a place where thousands of soldiers lived for many months. And I don't know specifically what the plans are for that. On the left-hand side, that road through the middle of a forest was just totally blazed. It was started as a path and became a road. And I think Dan said that people have seen, civilian vehicles on it now. It's all over the Galilee like that, where the human footprint of the thousands and tens of thousands of soldiers who were moving around there, like our back office director of communications, David Amichai, who's up there still and again on the Lebanese border. That damage is just very, very stark on the landscape and harmful to the ecology.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah.
Um, Despite all this, we see an amazing growing in the membership of from Israel, um, an amazing growing of support coming from abroad. Thank you for many people in this webinar that still that support us before and during this time. This is it's great for us that even during this very challenging time where people of Israel in such time of trauma and with a lot of obstacles, economical and etc. We grow in our membership. We grow in the money we manage to raise for our work. This is amazing. The last thing I want to say here is just last month we received an amazing news that the Open Land Foundation of the government of Israel. It's the Open Land Foundation is a foundation that SPNI was lobbying to create, and we are part of it. We have a chair in the management of the foundation. So the foundation allocate more than 30 million shekel to upgrade and develop the Israel National Trail. This year is we are celebrating 30 years to the National Trail of Israel. So it's a great achievement for us to now to be able to develop the trail, and it's a significant budget for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dan. Wow, a lot. Just a brief taste of so many things that have been going on in the Chevron in the last year. Um, there's one question actually only. Please, if anybody has any questions or want to bring up any topics, please write them in the Q&A. Paula Schlesberg asked about the difference between the sovereign waters and the economic waters. Um, I think that it means basically the sovereign waters are, in Israel's case, they're not up to 9 kilometers from the coast, and they're sovereign waters of Israel in the sense that Israeli law um, is, um, is what governs those waters, and they're entirely sovereign to Israel. Any broaching of them is sovereign territory. The economic waters are 40 kilometers, up to 40 kilometers from the coastline. It follows the coastline, and those are the waters where Israel has, or any country in its economic waters, has the economic rights to the resources in those water, which traditionally has meant fishing, of course, but also now gas and oil deposits under the sea. Um, mm, those are very important parameters given now that Israel's a fossil fuel exporter with our natural gas deposits that we're pumping out of the sea in our economic waters. Um, Oh, wait, there's a couple more questions have come in. I was just going to ask something. How can I be part of this initiative and volunteer, Yannick? Um, SPNI, and I'm not sure where you live, Yannick, but in Israel, we do take volunteers in our in our urban nature sites in Jerusalem and in Eilat under specific conditions. Um, we most of the volunteers we work with on a regular basis are Israelis who are activists in local communities or around around affinity groups and interests. But please, Yannick lives in Israel. Okay, Yannick, let's be in touch with us where offline, and we'll see what you can do and what you want to do. It's really a one-on-one thing. Contact me directly for if you're interested in volunteering. Also, if you're coming from abroad and you have a significant chunk of time to give, we would love to do that. Are there any lessons from Israel for Israel from the LA fires? Dan? What's our I got a few, but go for it.
If we have a lesson,
If we learned anything now about Israel from the LA fires.
I don't think so. I think that, we are all facing the same. I mean, the situation of California is not something that we can even close to compare to the situation of Israel. Um, it's a different scale, and I don't think so. Jay, maybe you have
I
something.
mean, I would just say that it's one more really in your face example of the accelerating pace of climate change and extreme weather events. I mean, they've just the fires in California in general, in the world in general, in Canada, in the Western United States, and especially in California, have been growing in intensity and in size year by year. I read an article in the Times today by a guy who switched in 2006. He switched his study of his doctorate from something in geology to climate change. And 2 years ago, moved his family out of LA, out of the Eaton fire. I don't remember the name of it. I said it's like a best kept secret in LA neighborhood that was also burned down to the ground. And he said they moved out 2 years ago because he was literally afraid for his family and he didn't think of anything that scale, but he said even in a smaller scale, the roads of getting out and the way you're surrounded by the woods. I mean, we know all the lessons already, not to build too close and to create fire breaks and but the lesson I learned is that this was just really, it wasn't about any particular government policy or that, they had three humongous water tanks with millions of gallons of water, but they said if they had three or four more, it still wouldn't have been enough. There wasn't enough manpower. You can't, just like the floods. My sister lived in Houston for many years, and those once in a century floods became once a decade, and then they were once every 3 years. And the infrastructure of the city just gets overwhelmed. There's not enough manpower, enough things to do, enough places for water to go, and and the houses themselves became the kindling for the fire, even though there were breaks and I don't know, a lot of just no new lessons. I think just more lessons hammered in again and again. And anyway, what we have, so we have new messages. Um, Dan, yes, Dan Pava, our board member, chair of the fundraising committee, that you can contribute to any of these SPI programs specifically or general operating costs, and monthly donations are easy on the budget and really help us. So thank you very much, Dan. Dan from Santa Fe, one of the lovelier cities around. Um, Are there still areas? What was learned from the Carmel fire? Well, that's a good question too, Dan. Think about that in a second. And are there still areas in Israel that are designated demilitarized zone? Does the IDF still participate in wildlife conservation within those zones? I'm not sure what you mean by that. You mean closed military zones? Because we both,
Absolutely.
yeah. If you meant closed military zones, yes, there are still areas that are closed. And does the IDF participate in wildlife conservation within those zones? I mean, not during times of war, but in general, we have cooperation, and Dan can speak to that. Um, why don't we start with those, Dan? Anything learned from the Carmel fire and the IDF's participation in wildlife conservation?
Well, I think that the there are two or three different things. One, I think there's no doubt that the way that the forest of Israel or the woodland of Israel was created uh, was the reason for the big fire. It's either in the Carmel or even the big fire near Jerusalem. Before and after, there was two big fires in the Jerusalem mountain and two very big fires. Among them, one of the last one in the Carmel. Um, uh, and the result of this fire was not as bad as it was if it was not a man-made pine forest. So this is the big lesson, and I think not only because of the fire, because of many other reasons. Israel is not is hardly have any new pine woodland. So this is one. Two, after the fire, if in the past the immediate result was running to plant new trees, this is not the situation still from the first big fire in the Carmel, it already from the 90s. Um, and it's not I mean, if everything was right and if we do what we need to do, we probably need to remove all these new growing pine trees. um, I think because of politics, it doesn't happen. So I think the risk of another fire because of the new growing pine trees is there again. So I think this is the big lesson that we take from this from the fires.
About the IDF and wildlife conservation in the military zones?
Um, What I can say about working with the IDF, we are trying to work with the IDF on the strategic areas where we can, as an example, working with the IDF about less decreasing the littering, decreasing the use of land by planning where the army is staying and where the army is paving roads and things like that. And we find out that we can decrease dramatically the impact of the army during regular time and during wartime as well. I think this is our target now when we are working with the army to find the area where we can work with the army, and we find out that it's a win-win, because the knowledge that we have about nature, the army is winning from what we can bring to the table, not only by less damage to the nature, also to make his work better because we can help by know the nature, knowing the streams and the woodlands, and so it's a win-win.
Okay. Dan, just a quick follow-up. I was asked to clarify your point about how the JNF forests contribute to these fires. It's basically the non-native
I didn't say JNF. I said pine trees.
pine tree forests. Well, the pine tree forests, which were put here by JNF over many decades. These are non-native European pine species that has a high oil content to protect themselves from the European winters. In Israel, they just become really efficient tinder to increase the speed and intensity of forest fires in Israel. In addition to the fact that they're not and the fact that um, they're bad for the biodiversity of the region. They're not native to the scrubland Bata, the Mediterranean grasslands that cover so much of Israel. Um, okay, what can be done? It was 2024 was the warmest year on record since 1850. I assume that's when they started keeping track. What can be done to help? I mean, my quick answer is leave the fossil fuel in the ground. Stop letting the fossil fuel industry call the shots. Transform the economies away from fossil fuel. It's the most important thing that can be done, in my opinion. Dan?
Yeah, I agree. So one, yes, renewable energy, but in the right way. Two, stop drilling for gas in the Mediterranean. It's going to destroy the Mediterranean, and the Mediterranean is important to protect CO2, to protect CO. And so I think this is the main thing that we can do here in Israel, and I think it's the same thing for all of us. Less fossil energy, and protecting uh, um, nature in a way that nature can help the climate.
Thanks. A couple questions about JNF, but let's get to them in a second. Um, Francine asked a really excellent question, Dan, which I think you asked yourself, and I certainly ask, which is that if the situation of the ceasefire in Lebanon is not fully resolved, which is what it seems, and I've heard the mayors of those villages in the north in the last week telling their residents not to go back. Um, how can we have the right strategy for nature protection and nature renewal? if we don't know that there's a hold ceasefire that's going to hold?
Well, first of all, we need to start mapping and monitoring for the exist damage. We can start the work on the ground later. As I mentioned before, fire is not the only thing. So if there are places like the place we show up in the Hermon that we can start walking, we can start walk, and we don't need to wait for the war to end. But I think the main answer here is to map and list all the damage that already there, and where everything is back into a normal, we can start walking on the ground.
Thank you. Um, JNF, does the JNF cooperate with SPNI? First of all, JNF in Israel is called Kakal, Keren Kamel Israel. Their official way they say their name in English is JNF, but they always have to say JNF/KKL because JNF, JNF US, as most of the JNF locally around the world, broke off in the 90s from Kakal in some statutory way. But does Kakal cooperate with SPNI all the time, every day, in many ways? Not always easily, but Dan, maybe you can speak to that more.
Yeah, so we cooperate with KKL in many issues. We are working with them to protect open landscape and habitats. We are partner in many cases in the planning system, in the lobbying area. We work together up in the Hula Valley to protect the birds of the Hula. We are managing together the Eilat Bird Park, and many other other ways. At the same time, we have areas that we are disagree that we don't agree, and we have a lot of conflict. Where KKL wants to create new forest that we don't like. Usually, also the Nature and Park Authority, Reserve Authority in Israel doesn't like. So we are cooperate, and at the same time, we are not always agree.
Yep, that's fair enough. And in terms of the JNF, what they plant now, they've diversified their planting. I think they're still planting some pine trees along with everything else. But our big issue is that, according to a master plan, which we advocated for, there's a forestry master plan in Israel. We think it's filled in. We think there's enough planted forests in Israel, and that the rest of the ecosystems of Israel, the desert, of course, and the scrubland, the grassland, uh, deserve to stay as they are and don't need trees on them of any kind whatsoever. But that's and we have won court cases against the JNF for planting in the northern Negev, where we think where that harms the ecology. But that's basically the answer to that. Tim Bailey has a long post, and for those of you who read it, Tim, I mean, I can't disagree with anything you wrote. Southern California does seem pretty unsustainable. And I just meant that, I mean, I throw out the word climate change because everything you write about, the density of the building and the living in a desert, and the water appropriation, you're right. That's been written about for decades. We've seen it coming for decades, but what we didn't see coming decades ago was this change in weather patterns caused, it seems, by man-made climate change. The wind patterns and the ocean currents and the rain getting more intense, everything getting more intense, and the temperatures going up. So, I mean, we don't disagree. Um, Dan, could you talk a bit about the agrovoltaic systems that you mentioned? And how does that reconcile adding renewables while keeping open spaces open for wildlife? Or are we still, is the book out on that? In other words, is that something we need to look at and study?
Well, I think our main challenge to achieve I don't know the target of renewable energy in Israel, it's either 30% in 10 years and 100%, I don't know when, um, is to find ways that renewable energy is not coming on a proper proper nature. So it can be agrovoltaic, as you mentioned, in agriculture, together with the agriculture. That's the agrovoltaic. So there's a lot of research and there's a lot of monitoring now to see agriculture and renewable energy can work together. In another word, if renewable energy doesn't damage the agriculture. And so there's a lot of effort in Israel for that now. We are part of this effort by searching for the right place to do it, by our main target, and I think it's also the main target of the government and electric company of Israel, is to find ways to create most of this energy close to the center part of Israel on existing infrastructures. It can be part of it can be on agriculture, uh, in order to reduce the wires, the transportation of energy, uh, and I think this is our main work now. But of course, part of it is agrovoltaic.
Cool. I think that about does it for our questions. Um, any final words, Dan? Any words you want to say about 2025 and I don't know, major.
We are 20, 20 we thought that 2024 will be probably the most challenging year that we had. I think that 2025 is going to be even more challenging. Um, Less budget coming from the government. That's something we know for sure, for nature protection, for education, lots of uh, effort of many agents to create things on the ground because people feel that they need to redevelop very fast. So it's going to be a challenge. And of course, the people of Israel that need nature to breed, nature to improve their life. And this is our big challenge for 2025, no doubt.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And for you, it's how long are you here now? A year and a half as CEO?
Yeah,
Less?
yeah.
Just about. And we, of course, have a new board chair just announced a week or two ago. Met today with the executive of the Chevra, uh, Gil Sharon. So we're excited about that and working with our volunteers and boards and supporters in North America and the UK and around the world. We thank everybody very much for support in 2024. Especially thank you for your engagement in these webinars. It's really great to see this webinar community pretty much every couple weeks, and we have some interesting ones coming up soon. We'll keep you posted, and that's about it. Good night, good afternoon, good morning from Tel Aviv and from Kfar Bilu. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Thank you, David Amichai.